Welcome to my channel today. We will explore the book of Deuteronomy Part 1, explained. Let's dive in. Deuteronomy chapter 1. These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel in the wilderness east of the Jordan, that is, in the Arabah, opposite Suf. Between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth and Dizahab, it takes 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir road. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses proclaimed to the Israelites all that the Lord had commanded him concerning them. This was after he had defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, and at Edrei had defeated Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. East of the Jordan in the territory of Moab, Moses began to expound this law, saying, "The Lord our God said to us at Horeb, 'You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance into the hill country of the Amorites. Go to all the neighboring peoples in the Arabah, in the mountains, in the western foothills, in the Negev, and along the coast, to the land of the Canaanites and to Lebanon, as far as the great river, the Euphrates. See, I have given you this land. Go in and take possession of the land the Lord swore he would give to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to their descendants after them. At that time I said to you, you are too heavy a burden for me to carry alone. The Lord your God has increased your numbers, so that today you are as numerous as the stars in the sky. May the Lord, the God of your ancestors, increase you 1,000 times and bless you as he has promised. But how can I bear your problems and your burdens and your disputes all by myself? Choose some wise, understanding, and respected men from each of your tribes, and I will set them over you." You answered me, "What you propose to do is good." So I took the leading men of your tribes, wise and respected men, and appointed them to have authority over you, as commanders of thousands, of hundreds, of 50s, and of 10s, and as tribal officials. And I charged your judges at that time, hear the disputes between your people and judge fairly, whether the case is between two Israelites or between an Israelite and a foreigner residing among you. Do not show partiality in judging. Hear both small and great alike. Do not be afraid of anyone, for judgment belongs to God. Bring me any case too hard for you, and I will hear it. And at that time I told you everything you were to do. Then, as the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went toward the hill country of the Amorites, through all that vast and dreadful wilderness that you have seen. And so we reached Kadesh Barnea. Then I said to you, "You have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord our God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, told you. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged." Then all of you came to me and said, "Let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back a report about the route we are to take and the towns we will come to." The idea seemed good to me, so I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. They left and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. Taking with them some of the fruit of the land, they brought it down to us and reported, "It is a good land that the Lord our God is giving us." But you were unwilling to go up. You rebelled against the command of the Lord your God. You grumbled in your tents and said, "The Lord hates us, so he brought us out of Egypt to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go? Our brothers have made our hearts melt in fear. They say, 'The people are stronger and taller than we are. The cities are large with walls up to the sky. We even saw the Anakites there.' Then I said to you, 'Do not be terrified, do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you, as he did for you in Egypt, before your very eyes, and in the wilderness. There you saw how the Lord your God carried you, as a father carries his son, all the way you went, until you reached this place. In spite of this, you did not trust in the Lord your God, who went ahead of you on your journey, in fire by night and in a cloud by day, to search out places for you to camp and to show you the way you should. Go. When the Lord heard what you said, he was angry and solemnly swore, no one from this evil generation shall see the good land I swore to give your ancestors, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh. He will see it, and I will give him and his descendants the land he set his feet on, because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly. Because of you, the Lord became angry with me also and said, you shall not enter it either. But your assistant, Joshua, son of Nun, will enter it. Encourage him, because he will lead Israel to inherit it. And the little ones that you said would be taken captive, your children who do not yet know good from bad, they will enter the land. I will give it to them, and they will take possession of it. But as for you, turn around and set out toward the desert along the route to the Red Sea. Then you replied, we have sinned against the Lord. We will go up and fight as the Lord our God commanded us. So every one of you put on his weapons, thinking it easy to go up into the hill country. But the Lord said to me, tell them, do not go up and fight, because I will not be with you. You will be defeated by your enemies. So I told you, but you would not listen. You rebelled against the Lord's command, and in your arrogance you marched up into the hill country. The Amorites who lived in those hills came out against you. They chased you like a swarm of bees and beat you down from Seir all the way to Hormah. You came back and wept before the Lord, but he paid no attention to your weeping and turned a deaf ear to you. And so you stayed in Kadesh many days, all the time you spent there. Reflection on Chapter 1. Deuteronomy 1 serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of faith, obedience, and learning from the past. As Moses addresses the new generation of Israelites, he recounts their journey, not just to inform them, but to prepare their hearts for the future God has promised. The Israelites were called to move forward in faith, but fear paralyzed them. Instead of trusting God's promise, they focused on obstacles. How often do we do the same, letting fear override faith when God calls us to step forward? Grumbling and distrust led to wasted years. The older generation missed their destiny because they refused to believe. This challenges us. Are we holding on to doubts that keep us from God's best? Moses reflects on the burden of leading a stubborn people. Even great leaders face discouragement, but humility and dependence on God are essential. Those in authority must seek wisdom, not control. The new generation had a chance to choose differently. The past was a warning, but the future was still open. God's mercy gives us fresh starts if we're willing to learn and obey. Deuteronomy chapter 2. Then we turned back and set out toward the wilderness along the route to the Red Sea, as the Lord had directed me. For a long time we made our way around the hill country of Seir. Then the Lord said to me, you have made your way around this hill country long enough. Now turn north. Give the people these orders. You are about to pass through the territory of your relatives, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you, but be very careful. Do not provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land, not even enough to put your foot on. I have given Esau the hill country of Seir as his own. You are to pay them in silver for the food you eat and the water you drink. The Lord your God has blessed you in all the work of your hands. He has watched over your journey through this vast wilderness. These 40 years the Lord your God has been with you, and you have not lacked anything. So we went on past our relatives, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. We turned from the Arabah road, which comes up from Elath and Esion-Geber, and traveled along the desert road of Moab. Then the Lord said to me, do not harass the Moabites or provoke them to war, for I will not give you any part of their land. I have given Ar to the descendants of Lot as a possession. The Emites used to live there, a people strong and numerous, and as tall as the Anakites. Like the Anakites, they too were considered Rephites, but the Moabites called them Emites. Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out. They destroyed the Horites from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel did in the land the Lord gave them as their possession. And the Lord said, "Now get up and cross the Zered valley." So we crossed the valley. 38 years passed from the time we left Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zered valley. By then, that entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp, as the Lord had sworn to them. The Lord's hand was against them until he had completely eliminated them from the camp. Now when the last of these fighting men among the people had died, the Lord said to me, "Today you are to pass by the region of Moab at Ar. When you come to the Ammonites, do not harass them or provoke them to war, for I will not give you possession of any land belonging to the Ammonites. I have given it as a possession to the descendants of Lot." That too was considered a land of the Rephaites, who used to live there, but the Ammonites called them Zamzumites. They were a people strong and numerous, and as tall as the Anakites. The Lord destroyed them from before the Ammonites, who drove them out and settled in their place. The Lord had done the same for the descendants of Esau, who, when he destroyed the Horites before them, they drove them out and have lived in their place to this day. And as for the Avites, who lived in villages as far as Gaza, the Captorites coming out from Captor destroyed them and settled in their place. Set out now and cross the Arnon Gorge. See, I have given into your hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his country. Begin to take possession of it and engage him in battle. This very day I will begin to put the terror and fear of you on all the nations under heaven. They will hear reports of you and will tremble and be in anguish because of you. From the desert of Kedemoth I sent messengers to Sihon, king of Heshbon, offering peace and saying, "Let us pass through your country. We will stay on the main road. We will not turn aside to the right or to the left. Sell us food to eat and water to drink for their price in silver. Only let us pass through on foot, just as the descendants of Esau who live in Seir and the Moabites who live in Ar did for us, until we cross the Jordan into the land the Lord our God is giving us." But Sihon, king of Heshbon, refused to let us pass through. For the Lord your God had made his spirit stubborn and his heart obstinate, in order to give him into your hands, as he has now done. The Lord said to me, "See, I have begun to deliver Sihon and his country over to you. Now begin to conquer and possess his land." When Sihon and all his army came out to meet us in battle at Jahaz, the Lord our God delivered him over to us, and we struck him down, together with his sons and his whole army. At that time we took all his towns and completely destroyed them, men, women, and children. We left no survivors. But the livestock and the plunder from the towns that we had captured we carried off for ourselves. From Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge, and from the town in the gorge, even as far as Gilead, not one town was too strong for us. The Lord our God gave us all of them. But in accordance with the command of the Lord our God, you did not encroach on any of the land of the Ammonites, neither the land along the course of the Jabbok, nor that around the towns in the hills. Reflection on Deuteronomy chapter. This passage shows us a people in transition, no longer wandering aimlessly, but not yet possessing their promise. There's a tension here between divine patience and holy urgency, between God's wait and his now. The long years of circling wilderness mountains finally give way to a command to move forward. How often do we linger in familiar struggles when God is saying it's time to advance? The terrain may change, but his presence remains constant, even when the path leads through lands we're not meant to claim. There's wisdom here about knowing what battles are ours to fight. Some territories belong to others by divine appointment. The text reminds us that victory isn't about conquering everything in sight, but about discerning where God has specifically called us to take ground. We also see God's faithfulness in the details, providing for needs, establishing boundaries, preparing the way. Every instruction carries purpose, even when the full picture isn't visible. Perhaps most striking is the quiet shift from judgment to new beginnings. The generation that rebelled has passed, and now their children stand at the edge of promise. This isn't just history, it's a testament to God's mercy making ways where there seem to be none. The chapter leaves us with questions. Where in our lives have we been going in circles when God says turn north? Are we trying to claim what was never meant to be ours? And do we trust that His timing, even when it involves waiting, is perfect? This isn't just ancient history. It's an invitation to examine our own journeys, our own moments of divine direction, and our own readiness to move when God says the time has come. Deuteronomy chapter 3. Next we turned and went up along the road toward Bashan, and Og king of Bashan, with his whole army, marched out to meet us in battle at Edrei. The Lord said to me, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his land. Do to him what you did to Sihon king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon." So the Lord our God also gave into our hands Og king of Bashan and all his army. We struck them down, leaving no survivors. At that time we took all his cities. There was not one of the 60 cities that we did not take from them. The whole region of Argob, Og's kingdom in Bashan. All these cities were fortified with high walls and with gates and bars, and there were also a great many unwalled villages. We completely destroyed them, as we had done with Sihon king of Heshbon, destroying every city, men, women, and children. But all the livestock and the plunder from their cities we carried off for ourselves. So at that time we took from these 2 kings of the Amorites the territory east of the Jordan, from the Arnon Gorge as far as Mount Hermon. Hermon is called Syrian by the Sidonians. The Amorites call it Senir. We took all the towns on the plateau, and all Gilead, and all Bashan as far as Salekah and Edrei, towns of Og's kingdom in Bashan. Og, king of Bashan, was the last of the Rephaites. His bed was decorated with iron and was more than 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide. It is still in Rabbah of the Ammonites. Of the land that we took over at that time, I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory north of Aroer by the Arnon Gorge, including half the hill country of Gilead, together with its towns. The rest of Gilead, and also all of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave to the half-tribe of Manasseh. The whole region of Argob in Bashan used to be known as a land of the Rephaites. Jair, a descendant of Manasseh, took the whole region of Argob as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maccathites. It was named after him, so that to this day Bashan is called Havoth Jair. And I gave Gilead to Machir. But to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave the territory extending from Gilead down to the Arnon Gorge, the middle of the gorge being the border, and out to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. Its western border was the Jordan in the Arabah, from Kinnereth to the Sea of the Arabah, that is, the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. I commanded you at that time, "The Lord your God has given you this land to take possession of it, but all your able-bodied men, armed for battle, must cross over ahead of the other Israelites. However, your wives, your children, and your livestock, I know you have much livestock, may stay in the towns I have given you until the Lord gives. Rest to your fellow Israelites as he has to you, and they too have taken over the land that the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan. After that, each of you may go back to the possession I have given you." At that time I commanded Joshua, "You have seen with your own eyes all that the Lord your God has done to these 2 kings. The Lord will do the same to all the kingdoms over there where you are going. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God himself will fight for you." At that time I pleaded with the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, you have begun to show to your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do the deeds and mighty works you do? Let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that fine hill country and Lebanon." But because of you, the Lord was angry with me and would not listen to me. "That is enough," the Lord said. Do not speak to me any more about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and look west and north and south and east. Look at the land with your own eyes, since you are not going to cross this Jordan. But commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead this people across and will cause them to inherit the land that you will see. So we stayed in the valley near. Reflection on chapter 3. In Deuteronomy chapter 3, Israel stands on the verge of promise, watching fortified cities and a giant king fall, because God says, "Do not be afraid, I have delivered him into your hands." The victory over Og of Bashan echoes every step since Egypt. When God initiates a journey, he also carries it to completion. What looked impossible is overturned by a word, reminding us that faith rests not on odds, but on the character of the one who guides. The newly won land east of the Jordan is divided even before the nation crosses over, yet the tribes receiving it must still fight alongside their brothers until everyone has a home. Blessing is presented less as a personal finish line and more as equipment for serving others. Possessions, insight, and healing become invitations to lift those who still wait for rest. Moses longs to enter the land, but hears a firm divine enough. Instead of brooding over disappointment, he strengthens Joshua, pouring encouragement into the leader who will go farther than he ever can. Mature faith can honor God's no without resentment and champion the next generation's yes. Joshua's courage is grounded in memory. He has seen what the Lord did to Sihon and Og, so he can face future kingdoms without fear. Our own resolve grows when we rehearse stories of provision, deliverance, and unexpected help, letting yesterday's evidence anchor tomorrow's uncertainties. The chapter invites quiet questions. Where have I already witnessed God finishing what he began, and how might that shape a present fear? Which comforts do I enjoy that others still lack, and how can I leverage them on their behalf? How do I respond when my path is limited? Do I withdraw or invest in those called to continue? Deuteronomy chapter 4. Now, Israel, hear and laws I am about to teach you. Follow them so that you may live and go in and take possession of the land the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to what I command you, and do not subtract from it, but keep the commands of the Lord your God that I give you. You saw with your own eyes what the Lord did at Baal Peor. The Lord your God destroyed from among you everyone who followed the Baal of Peor. But all of you who held fast to the Lord your God are still alive today. See, I have taught you decrees and laws as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may follow them in the land you are entering to take possession of it. Observe them carefully, for this will show your wisdom and understanding to the nations, who will hear about all these decrees and say, "Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people." What other nation is so great as to have their gods near them, the way the Lord our God is near us whenever we pray to him? And what other nation is so great as to have such righteous decrees and laws as this body of laws I am setting before you today? Only be careful and watch yourselves closely, so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen, or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. Remember the day you stood before the Lord your God at Horeb, when he said to me, "Assemble the people before me to hear my words, so that they may learn to revere me as long as they live in the land, and may teach them to their children." You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, while it blazed with fire to the very heavens, with black clouds and deep darkness. Then the Lord spoke to you out of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but saw no form. There was only a voice. He declared to you his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to follow, and wrote them on 2 stone tablets. And the Lord directed me at that time to teach you the decrees and laws you are to follow in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You saw no form of any kind the day the Lord spoke to you at Horeb out of the fire. Therefore watch yourselves very carefully, so that you do not become corrupt and make for yourselves an idol, an image of any shape, whether formed like a man or a woman, or like any animal on earth, or any bird that flies in the air, or like any creature that moves along the ground, or any fish in the waters below. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them and worshipping things the Lord your God has apportioned to all the nations under heaven. But as for you, the Lord took you and brought you out of the iron-smelting furnace, out of Egypt, to be the people of his inheritance, as you now are. The Lord was angry with me because of you, and he solemnly swore that I would not across the Jordan and enter the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your inheritance. I will die in this land. I will not cross the Jordan, but you are about to cross over and take possession of that good land. Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden. For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. After you have had children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God and arousing his anger, I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you this day, that you will quickly perish from the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed. The Lord will scatter you among the peoples, and only a few of you will survive among the nations to which the Lord will drive you. There you will worship man-made gods of wood and stone, which cannot see or hear or eat or smell. But if from there you seek the Lord your God, you will find him if you seek him with all your heart and with all your soul. When you are in distress and all these things have happened to you, then in later days you will return to the Lord your God and obey him. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon or destroy you or forget the covenant with your ancestors, which he confirmed to them by oath. Ask now about the former days, long before your time, from the day God created human beings on the earth. Ask from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything so great as this ever happened, or has anything like it ever been heard of? Has any other people heard the voice of God speaking out of fire, as you have, and lived? Has any God ever tried to take for himself one nation out of another nation, by testings, by signs and wonders, by war, by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, or by great and awesome deeds, like all the things the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? You were shown these things so that you might know that the Lord is God. Besides him there is no other. From heaven he made you hear his voice to discipline you. On earth he showed you his great fire, and you heard his words from out of the fire. Because he loved your ancestors and chose their descendants after them, he brought you out of Egypt by his presence and his great strength, to drive out before you nations greater and stronger than you, and to bring you into their land, to give it to you for your inheritance, as it is today. Acknowledge and take to heart this day that the Lord is God in heaven above and on the earth below. There is no other. Keep his decrees and commands that I am giving you today, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, and that you may live long in the land the Lord your God gives you for all time. Then Moses set aside 3 cities east of the Jordan, to which anyone who had killed a person could flee if they had unintentionally killed a neighbor without malice aforethought. They could flee into one of these cities and save their life. The cities were Bezer in the wilderness plateau for the Reubenites, Ramoth in Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan in Bashan for the Manassites. This is the law Moses set before the Israelites, the stipulations, decrees, and laws he gave them when they came out of Egypt, while they were in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan, in the land of Sihon king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon and was defeated by Moses and the Israelites. As they came out of Egypt, they took possession of his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, the two Amorite kings east of the Jordan. This land extended from Aroer on the rim of the Arnon Gorge to Mount Sirion, that is, Hermon, and included all the Arabah east of the Jordan, as far as the Dead Sea, below the slopes of Pisgah. Reflection on Chapter 4. Israel is poised to enter a new land, yet Moses pauses to draw their attention backward. He reminds them that the living God has already spoken, rescued, and revealed himself in fire without form, inviting them into relationship rather than religion. The focus of the chapter is not simply rule-keeping, but remembering. The covenant, the mountain ablaze, the voice in the fire, the nearness of God when they prayed. Forgetting those moments, Moses warns, would lead the heart to search for substitute images, idols shaped like human bodies, animals, or heavenly lights. The call to obedience flows from belonging. They are told not to add or subtract from God's word because it is already complete. Tampering with it would blur the beauty of divine wisdom that other nations are meant to see. Obedience then becomes a public testimony. When Israel lives by these decrees, the watching world says, "What great nation has a God so near?" In the same way, a life shaped by God's voice today can spark curiosity and hope in those who observe from a distance. Throughout the passage, Moses intertwines caution with comfort. He warns of scattering and loss if they abandon the covenant, yet immediately promises mercy for any who seek God with all their heart from exile. Even judgment has a redemptive edge, designed to awaken longing and lead wanderers home. This rhythm reveals God's character, jealous enough to confront unfaithfulness, merciful enough to restore when hearts return. Moses himself stands as both participant and witness. Though he may not cross the Jordan, he urges the people to take seriously what they have seen: signs, wonders, an outstretched arm. His plea is that they pass the memory on to children and grandchildren, so future generations will know that the Lord alone is God in heaven above and on earth below. The chapter invites each reader into a similar posture. It asks, what moments of divine nearness have we already experienced, and how will we keep them from fading? How might careful obedience display wisdom to those around us? And if we find ourselves far from God's intentions, are we willing to seek him wholeheartedly, trusting his mercy to receive us again? Deuteronomy chapter 5. Hear, Israel, the decrees and laws I declare in your hearing today. Learn them and be sure to follow them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Horeb. It was not with our ancestors that the Lord made this covenant, but with us, all of us who are alive here today. The Lord spoke to you face to face out of the fire on the mountain. At that time I stood between the Lord and you to declare the word of the Lord, because you were afraid of the fire and did not go up the mountain. And he said, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an image in the form of anything in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the waters below. You shall not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing love to 1,000 generations of those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God, for the Lord will not hold anyone guiltless who misuses his name. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, neither you nor your son or daughter, nor your male or female servant, nor your ox, donkey, or any of your animals, nor any foreigner residing in your towns, so that your male and female servants may rest as you do. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live long, and that it may go well with you in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife. You shall not set your desire on your neighbor's house or land, his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. These are the commandments the Lord proclaimed in a loud voice to your whole assembly. There on the mountain from out of the fire, the cloud and the deep darkness, and he added nothing more. Then he wrote them on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. When you heard the voice out of the darkness, while the mountain was ablaze with fire, all the leaders of your tribes and your elders came to me. You said, "The Lord our God has shown us his glory and his majesty, and we have heard his voice from the fire. Today we have seen that a person can live even if God speaks with them. But now, why should we die? This great fire will consume us, and we will perish if we hear the voice of the Lord our God any longer. For what mortal has ever heard the voice of the living God speaking out of fire as we have and survived? Go near and listen to all that the Lord our God says. Then tell us whatever the Lord our God tells you. We will listen and obey. The Lord heard you when you spoke to me, and he said, I have heard what this people said to you. Everything they said was good. Oh, that their hearts would always be inclined to fear me and keep all my commands, so that it might go well with them and their children forever. Go, tell them to return to their tents. But you stay here with me, so that I may give you all the commands, decrees, and laws you are to teach them to follow in the land I am giving them to possess. So be careful to do what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside, to the right or to the left. Walk in obedience to all that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land you will possess. Reflection on Chapter 5. The scene opens with Moses echoing the covenant at Horeb as something living, made not only with the past, but with every person standing there. The commandments begin with identity. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. So obedience flows from rescue, not from fear of rules. Each word reshapes the imagination. No rival gods, no crafted images, no careless use of the divine name. A weekly rhythm that remembers slavery's end through Sabbath rest. The commands about family, life, fidelity, property, truth, and desire paint freedom's boundaries. They warn that a society unmoored from these boundaries will eventually crumble, not because God is petty, but because distrust, violence, and envy erode the community from within. Yet the chapter shows that regulations alone cannot secure faithfulness. When the people beg Moses to speak on their behalf, God longs for hearts inclined to fear me and keep my commands. The true battlefield is inside, where reverence either deepens or drifts. Moses stays on the mountain to receive further teaching while the people return to their tents, illustrating a rhythm still needed today. Personal encounter with God's voice paired with humble instruction that can be carried into ordinary life. Each command becomes an invitation to examine motives. How do I honor God's name in conversation? Do I allow Sabbath space for trust and gratitude? Where have hidden covetous thoughts shaped my choices? The reflection ends with a promise and a warning bound together. Obedience leads to life and longevity in the land, while turning aside erodes both. The same promise lingers now. When a household or community orders itself around the God who liberates and speaks, it becomes a signpost of wisdom and flourishing to the watching world. Deuteronomy chapter 6. These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that you, your children, and their children after them may fear the Lord your God, as long as you live by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, and so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, Israel, and be careful to obey, so that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you, a land with large, flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant. Then when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. Do not follow other gods, the gods of the peoples around you, for the Lord your God, who is among you, is a jealous God, and his anger will burn against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the land. Do not put the Lord your God to the test as you did at Massah. Be sure to keep the commands of the Lord your God, and the stipulations and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so that it may go well with you, and you may go in and take over the good land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors, thrusting out all your enemies before you, as the Lord said. In the future, when your son asks you, what is the meaning of the stipulations, decrees, and laws the Lord our God has commanded you? Tell him, we were slaves of Pharaoh in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. Before our eyes, the Lord sent signs and wonders, great and terrible, on Egypt and Pharaoh and his whole household. But he brought us out from there to bring us in and give us the land he promised on oath to our ancestors. The Lord commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear the Lord our God, so that we might always prosper and be kept alive, as is the case today. And if we are careful to obey all this law before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us, that will be our righteousness. Reflection on chapter 6. Deuteronomy 6 invites the community to see obedience not as a duty imposed from the outside, but as an expression of wholehearted love. The call to love God with every fiber, heart, soul, strength, roots faith in relationship before regulation. That love becomes visible when the divine words settle deep in memory, shaping conversations at home, journeys on the road, routines of rising and resting. Passing the story on to children is not delegated to priests or scribes. It is woven into ordinary moments, reminding us that spiritual formation happens around dinner tables and doorways as much as in sanctuaries. The chapter also exposes the subtle danger of comfort. God anticipates the day when the people will enjoy houses they did not build and vineyards they did not plant. Abundance can dull dependence. Satisfaction can blur memory of liberation. The antidote is intentional remembrance, retelling the Exodus, tying symbols to hands and foreheads, writing truth on doorframes, so gratitude remains stronger than entitlement. Behind every instruction pulses God's jealous love, determined to guard Israel from hollow imitations. The warning against following other gods is not a threat for threat's sake. It is the plea of a rescuer who knows that idols ultimately enslave. When Israel is told not to test God as at Massa, the underlying lesson is trust. They can rely on divine faithfulness without demanding daily proof. Toward the end, the chapter envisions a child's curious question: why do we live by these commands? The answer roots practice in narrative. Israel can point to signs and wonders, to liberation from Pharaoh, to promises kept across generations. In the same way, spiritual disciplines today gain power when anchored in personal and communal stories of deliverance. Obedience becomes a way of remembering who God is and who we are because of divine mercy. The closing line offers a surprising definition of righteousness: not perfection, but persistent attentiveness to what God has spoken. Walking in that path opens a future marked by prosperity of soul and protection of life. For anyone on a journey of faith, the chapter whispers an enduring rhythm. Remember the rescue, love the rescuer with your whole being, and let that love spill naturally into every corner of daily life. Deuteronomy chapter 7. When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess and drives out before you many nations: the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you and you have defeated them, you must completely destroy them. Make no treaty with them and show them no mercy. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons, or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods. And the Lord's anger will burn against you and quickly destroy you. This is what you are to do: break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, cut down their Asherah poles, and burn their idols in the fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his treasured possession. The Lord did not set his affection on you and choose you because you were more numerous than other peoples. You were the fewest of all peoples, but because the Lord loved you and kept the oath he swore to your ancestors. With a mighty hand, he redeemed you from the land of slavery, from the power of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Know, therefore, that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments, but repaying to their face those who hate him. He will not be slow to repay them. Therefore take care to follow the commands, decrees, and laws I give you today. If you pay attention to these laws and are careful to follow them, the Lord your God will keep his covenant of love with you, as he swore to your ancestors. He will love you, bless you, and increase your numbers. He will bless the fruit of your womb, the crops of your land, your grain, new wine, and olive oil, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks in the land he swore to give your ancestors. You will be blessed more than any other people. None of your men or women will be childless, nor will your livestock be without young. The Lord will keep you free from every disease. He will not inflict on you the terrible diseases you knew in Egypt, but he will inflict them on all who hate you. You must destroy all the peoples the Lord your God hands over to you. Do not look on them with pity and do not serve their gods, for that will be a snare to you. You may say to yourselves, these nations are stronger than we are. How can we drive them out? But do not be afraid of them. Remember well what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and all Egypt. You saw with your own eyes the great trials, signs and wonders, the mighty hand and outstretched arm with which the Lord your God brought you out. The Lord your God will do the same to all the peoples you now fear. Moreover, the Lord your God will send the hornet among them until even the survivors who hide from you have perished. Do not be terrified by them, for the Lord your God who is among you is a great and awesome God. The Lord your God will drive out those nations before you little by little. You will not eliminate them all at once, or the wild animals would multiply around you. But the Lord your God will deliver them over to you, throwing them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will give their kings into your hand, and you will wipe out their names from under heaven. No one will be able to stand against you. You will destroy them. The images of their gods you are to burn in the fire. Do not covet the silver and gold on them, or take it for yourselves, or you will be ensnared by it, for it is detestable to the Lord your God. Do not bring any detestable thing into your house, or you, like it, will be set apart for destruction. Regard it as vile, and utterly detest it, for it is set apart for destruction. Reflection on Chapter 7. Israel is reminded that its distinctiveness rests not on size or strength, but on being loved and chosen. The command to dismantle foreign altars and images grows out of that love. Anything that lures the heart away from the one who rescued them would ultimately re-enslave them. The stark language of total destruction reads harsh through modern eyes, yet it underscores the seriousness of idolatry in a formative season when compromise would shape the nation's future character. The chapter pairs warning with promise. Obedience safeguards covenant love to 1,000 generations, while disobedience invites consequences that aim to break the cycle of hatred toward God. Prosperity, fertile fields, healthy families, freedom from disease is framed not as a reward for moral achievement, but as fruit that grows naturally from staying aligned with divine purposes. The invitation is to trust that the God who carried them out of Egypt can handle the obstacles ahead. Fear is addressed honestly. The nations are larger and stronger, and victory will come little by little. Rapid success might create vacuum and chaos, so gradual progress becomes an expression of care. This offers a gentle lesson for spiritual seekers facing formidable habits or systems. Transformation often comes step by step, allowing inner structure to mature alongside outer change. The closing cautions against coveting the silver and gold on idols hint at subtler temptations. Even when overt allegiance to false gods is rejected, the allure of what they display, status, beauty, wealth, can still ensnare. Holiness therefore involves both smashing obvious idols and guarding desire from subtler attractions that erode trust. Today, the chapter invites examination of personal altars. What practices or possessions quietly redirect my affection away from the God who rescues and sustains? Am I willing to remove them decisively rather than negotiate with them? It also offers comfort for long journeys. Gradual deliverance is still deliverance, and each small step is overseen by a great and awesome presence working for good. Deuteronomy Chapter 8. Be careful to follow every command I'm giving you today, so that you may live and increase and may enter and possess the land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that people do not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a parent disciplines a child, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in obedience to him and revering him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with brooks, streams, and deep springs gushing out into the valleys and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil, and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce, and you will lack nothing, a land whose rocks are iron, and from whose hills you can dig copper. When you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving you today. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land, with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. You may say to yourself, "My power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me." But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you the ability to produce wealth, and so confirms His covenant, which He swore to your ancestors, as it is today. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship, and bow down to them, you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God. Reflection on Chapter 8. Deuteronomy 8 traces a rhythm that pulses through every spiritual journey, wilderness scarcity followed by promised abundance, each carrying its own test. In the dry places, God allowed hunger, yet supplied manna, a food unknown to Israel's ancestors, so that dependence would shift from bread to every word spoken by the divine voice. Their clothes did not fray, their feet did not swell. Even deprivation was wrapped in care, like a parent's discipline that refines rather than rejects. The chapter then turns toward the lush land ahead, overflowing with water, grain, figs, olives, and metal hidden in hills. Abundance is depicted as pure gift, but it carries a quieter danger than thirst or hunger, the danger of forgetting. Full barns, flourishing herds, and expanding accounts can whisper the lie that strength alone produce such success. Memory is the safeguard, remembering slavery, remembering serpents and scorpions, remembering water from rock and bread from heaven, remembering that the capacity to create wealth is itself a covenant gift. Israel is warned that pride-fed amnesia will bend the heart toward other gods, and the result will mirror the fates of earlier nations, collapse where self-sufficiency once boasted. Yet the invitation remains clear and hopeful. Gratitude expressed at the table, obedience practiced in daily choices, and stories retold to the next generation form a shield against forgetfulness. For modern readers, the chapter asks piercing questions. When comfort increases, do gratitude and dependence increase with it? Do we credit creativity, opportunity, and even breath itself to the giver? Or do we mentally rewrite the story with ourselves at the center? Wilderness seasons teach that life is sustained by more than resources. Prosperous seasons test whether that lesson has taken root. Holding both realities in tension cultivates a humility that can handle blessing and a trust that can endure desert paths, always remembering the one who leads, feeds, disciplines, and delights in seeing it go well with his people. Deuteronomy chapter 9. Hear, Israel, you are about to cross the Jordan to dispossess nations greater and stronger than you, with large cities whose walls rise to the sky. The people are strong and tall, Anakites. You know about them and have heard it said, "Who can stand up against the Anakites?" But be assured today that the Lord your God goes across ahead of you like a devouring fire. He will destroy them and subdue them before you. You will drive them out and annihilate them quickly, just as the Lord has promised. After the Lord your God has driven them out before you, do not say in your heart, "The Lord brought me here to take possession of this land because of my righteousness." It is on account of the wickedness of these nations that the Lord is driving them out. It is not because of your righteousness or integrity that you are entering their land. Rather, to fulfill the oath he swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to judge the nation's wickedness. Understand then that this good land is not given to you because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember and never forget how you provoked the Lord your God in the wilderness. From the day you left Egypt until you arrived here, you have been rebellious. At Horeb you aroused the Lord's wrath. He was angry enough to destroy you. When I went up the mountain to receive the tablets of the covenant, I stayed 40 days and 40 nights without bread or water, and the Lord gave me 2 stone tablets inscribed by his own finger. At the end of that time he said, "Go down, for your people have become corrupt. They have turned away quickly and made an idol." The Lord said, "I have seen this people. They are truly stiff-necked. Leave me, so I may destroy them, and make you into a nation stronger and more numerous." I turned and came down the mountain ablaze with fire, holding the 2 tablets. I saw the calf you had made, the sin you had committed, and I smashed the tablets before your eyes. Then I lay face down before the Lord, another 40 days and nights, again without bread or water, because of all your sin. I feared the Lord's fierce anger, but he listened to me. He was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him, and I prayed for him too. I burned your calf, crushed it to powder, and threw the dust into the stream flowing down the mountain. You also angered the Lord at Taberah, at Massa, and at Kibroth-Hattaavah. At Kadesh-Barnea he said, "Go up and take the land." But you rebelled, refusing to trust or obey him. You have been rebellious against the Lord from the day I knew you. I lay prostrate those 40 days and nights because the Lord had said he would destroy you. And I prayed, "Sovereign Lord, do not destroy your people, your inheritance, whom you redeemed from Egypt with a mighty hand. Remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Overlook this people's stubbornness and sin, lest the Egyptians say, 'The Lord brought them out to kill them in the wilderness.' They are your people, your inheritance, whom you brought out by your great power and outstretched arm." Reflection on chapter 9. Deuteronomy 9 is a humbling reminder of how easy it is to forget where our blessings truly come from. It's striking how Moses confronts the Israelites, not with praise for their faithfulness, but with a recounting of their stubbornness, their repeated failures, and God's mercy despite it all. There's something deeply human about this chapter. It mirrors our own tendencies to believe we've earned what we have, to take credit for outcomes that are, in truth, the result of grace. Moses doesn't soften the truth. He reminds them of the golden calf, of their rebellion, of how close they came to being destroyed. And yet, woven through the rebuke is the story of God's patience and the power of intercession. It's uncomfortable but necessary, to be shown who we really are, and yet still be loved, still be led, still be given a promise. This chapter makes me reflect on how often we want to stand on our accomplishments without acknowledging the role of divine mercy. It asks us to let go of the illusion of self-righteousness and embrace a posture of humility. It's not a feel-good passage, but it's a necessary one. It invites us to remember, repent, and trust, not in ourselves, but in the enduring faithfulness of God. Deuteronomy chapter 10. At that time the Lord said to me, "Chisel out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and come up to me on the mountain. Also make a wooden ark. I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke. Then you are to put them in the ark." So I made the ark out of acacia wood, and chiseled out 2 stone tablets like the first ones, and I went up on the mountain, with the 2 tablets in my hands. The Lord wrote on these tablets what he had written before, the 10 commandments he had proclaimed to you on the mountain, out of the fire, on the day of the assembly, and the Lord gave them to me. Then I came back down the mountain and put the tablets in the ark I had made, as the Lord commanded me, and they are there now. The Israelites traveled from the wells of Bene-Jaakan to Moserah. There Aaron died and was buried, and Eleazar his son succeeded him as priest. From there they traveled to Gudgodah and on to Jotbatha, a land with streams of water. At that time, the Lord set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of the Lord, to stand before the Lord, to minister, and to pronounce blessings in his name, as they still do today. That is why the Levites have no share or inheritance among their fellow Israelites. The Lord is their inheritance, as the Lord your God told them. Now I had stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, as I did the first time, and the Lord listened to me at this time also. It was not his will to destroy you. Go, the Lord said to me, and lead the people on their way, so that they may enter and possess the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God ask of you but to fear the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to observe the Lord's commands and decrees that I am giving you today for your own good? To the Lord your God belong the heavens, even the highest heavens, the earth and everything in it. Yet the Lord set his affection on your ancestors and loved them, and he chose you, their descendants, above all the nations, as it is today. Circumcise your hearts, therefore, and do not be stiff-necked any longer. For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and accepts no bribes. He defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing, and you are to love those who are foreigners, for you yourselves were foreigners in Egypt. Fear the Lord your God, and serve him. Hold fast to him and take your oaths in his name. He is the one you praise. He is your God, who performed for you those great and awesome wonders you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors who went down into Egypt were 70 in all, and now the Lord your God has made you as numerous as the stars in the sky. Reflection on Chapter 10. Deuteronomy 10 is a powerful call to relationship with God, rooted in humility, reverence, and love. After the painful reminder of Israel's rebellion in chapter 9, this chapter turns toward restoration. It begins with the renewal of the covenant, the new tablets replacing the broken ones, a quiet yet profound symbol that despite failure, God still desires to dwell with his people. What stands out most is the deeply personal tone. God is not distant. He chooses, he listens, he leads. Moses reminds Israel that they are not loved because of merit, but because of God's choice, a love that began with their ancestors and now continues with them. This love calls for a response, not just in ritual or rule-keeping, but in wholehearted devotion. There's also a strong emphasis on justice. God defends the vulnerable, the orphan, the widow, the foreigner. His people are called to mirror that love, to remember what it felt like to be powerless, and to act with compassion and fairness. This chapter invites us to examine the posture of our hearts. Are we stiff-necked, clinging to pride or fear, or are we willing to let God soften us, circumcise our hearts, so that we can truly love and serve with sincerity? It's not just about obedience, it's about transformation. God doesn't just want followers, he wants hearts fully alive in him. Deuteronomy 10 is an invitation to return, to reorient, and to remember who God is. We are because of him. Deuteronomy chapter 11. Love the Lord your God and keep his requirements, his decrees, his laws, and his commands always. Remember today that your children were not the ones who saw and experienced the discipline of the Lord, your God, his majesty, his mighty hand, his outstretched arm, the signs he performed and the things he did in the heart of Egypt, both to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his whole country. What he did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and chariots, how he overwhelmed them with the waters of the Red Sea as they were pursuing you, and how the Lord brought lasting ruin on them. It was not your children who saw what he did for you in the wilderness until you arrived at this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram, sons of Eliab the Reubenite. when the earth opened its mouth right in the middle of all Israel, and swallowed them up with their households, their tents, and every living thing that belonged to them. But it was your own eyes that saw all these great things the Lord has done. Observe therefore all the commands I am giving you today, so that you may have the strength to go in and take over the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, and so that you may live long in the land the Lord swore to your ancestors to give to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. The land you are entering to take over is not like the land of Egypt, from which you have come, where you planted your seed and irrigated it by foot as in a vegetable garden. But the land you are crossing the Jordan to take possession of is a land of mountains and valleys that drinks rain from heaven. It is a land the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are continually on it from the beginning of the year to its end. So if you faithfully obey the commands I am giving you today, to love the Lord your God and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, then I will send rain on your land in its season, both autumn and spring rains, so that you may gather in your grain, new wine and olive oil. I will provide grass in the fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Be careful, or you will be enticed to turn away and worship other gods and bow down to them. Then the Lord's anger will burn against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that it will not rain, and the ground will yield no produce, and you will soon perish from the good land the Lord is giving you. Fix these words of mine in your hearts and minds, tie them as symbols on your hands, and bind them on your foreheads. Teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Write them on the doorframes of your houses and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children may be many in the land the Lord swore to give your ancestors, as many as the days that the heavens are above the earth. If you carefully observe all these commands I'm giving you to follow, to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience to him, and to hold fast to him, then the Lord will drive out all these nations before you, and you will dispossess nations larger and stronger than you. Every place where you set your foot will be yours. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea. No one will be able to stand against you. The Lord your God, as he promised you, will put the terror and fear of you on the whole land, wherever you go. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing if you obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you today. The curse if you disobey the commands of the Lord your God and turn from the way that I command you today by following other gods, which you have not known. When the Lord your God has brought you into the land you are entering to possess, you are to proclaim on Mount Gerizim the blessings, and on Mount Ebal the curses. As you know, these mountains are across the Jordan, westward toward the setting sun, near the great trees of Moreh, in the territory of those Canaanites living in the Arabah in the vicinity of Gilgal. You are about to cross the Jordan to enter and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you. When you have taken it over and are living there, be sure that you obey all the decrees and laws I am setting before you today. Reflection on Chapter 11. Deuteronomy 11 feels like a heartfelt plea, a father's voice reminding his children to hold fast to what matters most. It's not just a repetition of commands, it's a reminder born from love and deep concern. Moses is urging the people to remember not only what God has done, but who he is, a God who rescues, provides, disciplines, and blesses. What strikes me most is the emphasis on memory and presence. The older generation had seen the miracles, the discipline, the deliverance. They had experienced God's faithfulness in fire, flood, and wilderness. Now they are asked to carry that memory into the promised land and to plant it firmly in the hearts of their children. There's a deep truth here about inheritance, not just of land, but of faith. The commands to teach diligently, to speak of God in daily life, to fix his words in heart and home, reveal that this covenant isn't about rules, it's about relationship. A relationship that must be tended like a garden, cultivated with intentionality and reverence. The chapter also offers a sobering choice, blessing or curse, life or loss. But it's not presented with cold threat, it's a call to alignment with God's heart. Obedience is framed not as duty, but as the pathway to abundance and peace. It reminds us that God doesn't just want to give land, he wants to shape a people who reflect his goodness in how they live and love. This chapter is a mirror, asking whether we will let our love for God be more than words, whether we'll let it permeate our homes, our rhythms, our future. It invites us to choose well, to remember deeply and to love fully. Deuteronomy chapter 12. These are the decrees and laws you must be careful to follow in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has given you to possess. As long as you live in the land, destroy completely all the places on the high mountains, on the hills, and under every spreading tree, where the nations you are dispossessing worship their gods. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones and burn their Asherah poles in the fire. Cut down the idols of their gods and wipe out their names from those places. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, but you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes, to put his name there for his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you have vowed to give, and your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There, in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your families shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. You are not to do as we do here today, everyone doing as they see fit, since you have not yet reached the resting place and the inheritance the Lord your God is giving you. But you will cross the Jordan and settle in the land the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, and he will give you rest from all your enemies around you, so that you will live in safety. Then to the place the Lord your God will choose as a dwelling for his name. There you are to bring everything I command you, your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, and all the choice possessions you have vowed to the Lord. And there rejoice before the Lord your God, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own. Be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. Nevertheless, you may slaughter your animals in any of your towns and eat as much of the meat as you want, as if it were gazelle or deer, according to the blessing the Lord your God gives you. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, but you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground. Like water, you must not eat in your own towns the tithe of your grain and new wine and olive oil, or the firstborn of your herds and flocks, or whatever you have vowed to give, or your free will offerings or special gifts. Instead, you are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place the Lord your God will choose, you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, and the Levites from your towns. And you are to rejoice before the Lord your God in everything you put your hand to. Be careful not to neglect the Levites as long as you live in your land. When the Lord your God has enlarged your territory as he promised you, and you crave meat and say, I would like some meat, then you may eat as much of it as you want. If the place where the Lord your God chooses to put his name is too far away from you, you may slaughter animals from the herds and flocks the Lord has given you, as I have commanded you, and in your own towns you may eat as much of them as you want. Eat them as you would gazelle or deer. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat, but be sure you do not eat the blood, because the blood is the life, and you must not eat the life with the meat. You must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. Do not eat it, so that it may go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is right in the eyes of the Lord. But take your consecrated things and whatever you have vowed to give, and go to the place the Lord. Present your burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord your God, both the meat and the blood. The blood of your sacrifices must be poured beside the altar of the Lord your God, but you may eat the meat. Be careful to obey all these regulations I am giving you, so that it may always go well with you and your children after you, because you will be doing what is good and right in the eyes of the Lord your God. The Lord your God will cut off before you the nations you are about to invade and dispossess. But when you have driven them out and settled in their land, and after they have been destroyed before you, be careful not to be ensnared by inquiring about their gods, saying, "How do these nations serve their gods? We will do the same." You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, because in worshipping their gods they do all kinds of detestable things the Lord hates. They even burn their sons and daughters in the fire as sacrifices to their gods. See that you do all. I command you, do not add to it or take away from it. Reflection on chapter 12. Deuteronomy 12 is a vivid reminder that how we worship matters as much as who we worship. God isn't just calling his people to believe in him. He's calling them to worship him in a way that reflects his holiness and truth. The emphasis on destroying every trace of pagan worship isn't about cruelty. It's about protecting the people from being drawn into practices that degrade life, dishonor God, and distort what true worship looks like. This chapter also introduces a sacred centralization. God will choose a specific place for his name to dwell, and it is there the people are to bring their offerings. In a world of scattered altars and personal preferences, God is asking for a united, focused devotion. He wants worship to be marked by joy, reverence, and community, not convenience or imitation of other nations. It's powerful that the chapter weaves together sacred duty and joyful celebration. Worship is not presented as a burden, but as a blessing, an opportunity to rejoice in the presence of God, to eat and drink and celebrate all that he has given. There's also an undercurrent of justice. The Levites, who rely on the community's generosity, are not to be forgotten. God is forming a people who honor him not just in rituals, but in relationship with him and with each other. Deuteronomy 12 calls us to guard the purity of our worship, to be intentional, and to never let worship become something we shape in our image. It reminds us that worship is a response to grace, not a performance for approval. It's a gift, and we are invited to bring our whole selves to the one who calls us into his presence. Deuteronomy chapter 13. If a prophet, or one who foretells by dreams, appears among you and announces to you a sign or wonder, and if the sign or wonder spoken of takes place, and the prophet says, "Let us follow other gods, gods you have not known, and let us worship them," you must not listen to the words of that prophet or dreamer. The Lord your God is testing you to find out whether you love him with all your heart and with all your soul. It is the Lord your God you must follow, and him you must revere. Keep his commands and obey him, serve him and hold fast to him. That prophet or dreamer must be put to death for inciting rebellion against the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt and redeemed you from the land of slavery. That prophet or dreamer tried to turn you from the way the Lord your God commanded you to follow. You must purge the evil from among you. If your very own brother, or your son or daughter, or the wife you love, or your closest friend, secretly entices you, saying, "Let us go and worship other gods," gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods of the peoples around you, whether near or far, from one end of the land to the other, do not yield to them or listen to them. Show them no pity. Do not spare them or shield them. You must certainly put them to death. Your hand must be the first in putting them to death, and then the hands of all the people. Stone them to death. because they tried to turn you away from the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Then all Israel will hear and be afraid, and no one among you will do such an evil thing again. If you hear it said about one of the towns the Lord your God is giving you to live in, that troublemakers have arisen among you, and have led the people of their town astray, saying, "Let us go and worship other gods," gods you have not known, then you must inquire, probe, and investigate it thoroughly. And if it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done among you, you must certainly put to the sword all who live in that town. You must destroy it completely, both its people and its livestock. You are to gather all the plunder of the town into the middle of the public square, and completely burn the town and all its plunder as a whole burnt offering to the Lord your God. That town is to remain a ruin forever, never to be rebuilt, and none of the condemned things are to be found in your hands. Then the Lord will turn from his fierce anger, will show you mercy, and will have compassion on you. He will increase your numbers, as he promised on oath to your ancestors, because you obey the Lord your God by keeping all his commands that I am giving you today, and doing what is right in his eyes. Reflection on chapter 13. Deuteronomy 13 is one of the most sobering chapters in the book. It confronts us with the seriousness of faithfulness to God, showing that the greatest threat to covenant loyalty isn't always external persecution, but internal temptation from prophets loved ones, or even entire communities. This chapter insists that no matter how persuasive a person may be, even if their signs come true, if their message draws you away from God, it must be rejected completely. It's not about blind suspicion, but about a tested loyalty to truth. The emphasis is not just on doctrinal purity, but on love. Love for God with all your heart and soul. That's the real test. God doesn't want passive agreement. He wants allegiance born of relationship. What's perhaps most difficult is the personal nature of the temptations described. A brother, a child, a spouse, a close friend, those we love most could lead us astray. The emotional weight here is immense. The text demands unwavering loyalty to God, even when it tears at the fabric of our closest relationships. It's not about cruelty. It's about preserving a holy relationship with the God who redeemed them from slavery. It's a call to protect the covenant community from internal decay. Even when entire towns fall into idolatry, the community is commanded to act decisively. This is not casual religion, it is sacred communal responsibility. Idolatry isn't just a personal misstep. It's portrayed as a deep betrayal of the one who saved and sustained. This chapter isn't easy. It demands reflection, not just on others' faithfulness, but on our own. It asks, what voices are we listening to? Who holds sway over our choices? And are we willing to let God's truth override even our strongest emotional bonds when those bonds pull us away from Him? Deuteronomy 13 teaches that love for God is not sentimental. It's fierce, faithful, and sometimes costly. But in that faithfulness lies a deeper security, a clearer identity, and a life rooted in what is right in the eyes of the Lord. Deuteronomy chapter 14. You are the children of the Lord your God. Do not cut yourselves or shave the front of your heads for the dead, for you are a people holy to the Lord your God. Out of all the peoples on the face of the earth, the Lord has chosen you to be his treasured possession. Do not eat any detestable thing. These are the animals you may eat: the ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof and that chews the cud. However, of those that chew the cud, or that have a divided hoof, you may not eat the camel, the rabbit, or the hyrax. Although they chew the cud, they do not have a divided hoof. They are ceremonially unclean for you. The pig is also unclean. Although it has a divided hoof, it does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Of all the creatures living in the water, you may eat any that has fins and scales. But anything that does not have fins and scales you may not eat. For you it is unclean. You may eat any clean bird. But these you may not eat: the eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, the black kite, any kind of falcon, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the cormorant, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. All flying insects are unclean to you. Do not eat them. But any winged creature that is clean you may eat. Do not eat anything you find already dead. You may give it to the foreigner residing in any of your towns, and they may eat it, or you may sell it to any other foreigner. But you are a people, only to the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Be sure to set aside 1/10 of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine and olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. But if that place is too distant, and you have been blessed by the Lord your God, and cannot carry your tithe, because the place where the Lord will choose to put his name is so far away, then exchange your tithe for silver, and take the silver with you, and go to the place the Lord your God will choose. Use the silver to buy cattle, sheep, wine, or other fermented drink, or anything you wish. Then you and your household shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God, and rejoice. And do not neglect the Levites living in your towns, for they have no allotment or inheritance of their own. At the end of every 3 years, bring all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns, so that the Levites, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own, and the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows who live in your towns may come and eat and be satisfied, and so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. Reflection on chapter 14. Deuteronomy 14 invites us into a way of living that is set apart, holy, intentional, and deeply reflective of belonging to God. The chapter opens with a reminder of identity. You are the children of the Lord your God. From that truth flows everything else: how to mourn, what to eat, how to treat offerings. It's not about arbitrary rules. It's about living in a way that visibly honors that sacred relationship. The dietary laws and distinctions between clean and unclean aren't just about health or hygiene. They're about formation. By making conscious choices, even in something as routine as eating, the people were practicing daily mindfulness of God's holiness and their calling to be distinct from the surrounding nations. Their meals became reminders that they were not like everyone else. They were chosen. The tithe instructions also show that worship isn't confined to ritual. It overflows into community, provision, and joy. Sharing a meal in God's presence, celebrating with family, blessing the Levites and the vulnerable, all of this is spiritual practice. Worship and generosity are bound together. There's a deep beauty in the way God makes room for everyone: the Levites, the foreigners, the orphans, and the widows. Holiness isn't isolation. It's inclusion with intention. It's about remembering who God is by remembering who we are called to care for. This chapter asks, does your daily life reflect who you belong to? Are your rhythms shaped by reverence, generosity, and joy? Deuteronomy 14 reminds us that holiness isn't distant or mystical. It's woven into what we eat, how we give, and how we remember. It's a life shaped by the love of a God who calls us his own. Deuteronomy chapter 15. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel any loan they have made to a fellow Israelite. They shall not require payment from anyone among their own people, because the Lord's time for canceling debts has been proclaimed. You may require payment from a foreigner, but you must cancel any debt your fellow Israelite owes you. However, there need be no poor people among you, for in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance, he will richly bless you if only you fully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all these commands I am giving you today. For the Lord your God will bless you as he has promised, and you will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. You will rule over many nations, but none will rule over you. If anyone is poor among your fellow Israelites in any of the towns of the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. Be careful not to harbor this wicked thought. The 7th year, the year for canceling debts, is near, so that you do not show ill will toward the needy among your fellow Israelites, and give them nothing. They may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Give generously to them, and do so without a grudging heart. Then because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore I command you to be open-handed toward your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land. If any of your people, Hebrew men or women, sell themselves to you and serve you 6 years, in the 7th year you must let them go free. And when you release them, do not send them away empty-handed. Supply them liberally from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. Give to them as the Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. That is why I give you this command today. But if your servant says to you, I do not want to leave you, because he loves you and your family and is well off with you, then take an awl and push it through his earlobe into the door, and he will become your servant for life. Do the same for your female servant. Do not consider it a hardship to set your servant free, because their service to you these 6 years has been worth twice as much as that of a hired hand. And the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do. Set apart for the Lord your God every firstborn male of your herds and flocks. Do not put the firstborn of your cows to work, and do not shear the firstborn of your sheep. Each year you and your family are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God at the place he will choose. If an animal has a defect, is lame, or blind, or has any serious flaw, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. You are to eat it in your own towns. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer. But you must not eat the blood. Pour it out on the ground like water. Reflection on chapter 15. Deuteronomy 15 reveals God's heart for justice, compassion, and economic mercy. It is not just a set of financial policies, it is a vision for a society shaped by grace. The command to cancel debts every 7 years is radical, not because it ignores responsibility, but because it acknowledges the dignity of every person and the priority of community over accumulation. This chapter teaches that wealth is not to be hoarded, but shared, that open hands reflect trust in God's provision. When someone in need asks for help, the response is not supposed to be cautious calculation or fear of loss, but generosity. Even when the year of debt cancellation is near, when the temptation to withhold is greatest, God calls his people to give freely, promising blessing for such kindness. There's also a profound reminder in the release of servants. Remember, you were slaves in Egypt. Compassion is rooted in memory. Freedom is not just for the powerful, it's for everyone. And when someone chooses to stay, it must be because they have found love, not oppression. That kind of relationship transforms service from duty into devotion. The final commands about firstborn animals and offerings reinforce that all provision ultimately belongs to God. Even in sacrifice there is celebration, a family gathering, in God's presence, rejoicing in his generosity. Deuteronomy 15 isn't just ancient law. It's a blueprint for a community where mercy reigns, generosity flows, and the dignity of every person is protected. It calls us to consider how we treat those in debt, in need, or in our service, not as burdens, but as sacred opportunities to reflect the heart. The Book of Deuteronomy, Part 1, is a powerful reminder of God's faithfulness, Israel's calling to holiness, and the importance of obedience, justice, and love. Through Moses' words, we see how the past shapes the future, and how choosing God's way leads to life and blessing. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more Bible story videos and stay rooted in His Word.